Well, that was noisy. All right, so we are starting up. It is now 7 o'clock. We are starting our live. Tonight we are talking about saffron, nature's golden secret. Now, like we normally do on most of these videos, I'm going to start the first few minutes out. I'm not really going to be talking about much of anything. I want to get some people in here to see it. Once we get some people in, we will get started. So if you'd like, you can fast forward to, let's say, the 3 minute mark tonight. Tonight we'll go to the 3 minute mark and then we will get started. So here we go. Get my other phone set up. All right. Boy, that looks rather blurry, doesn't it? Who we have? We have some people in. All right. Hi, everybody. Hey, Sarah. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Cindy. All right. There's a few of us here. Is that clear enough? Can everybody see that all right? My phone looks like it's okay. Nature's golden secret. Hey, Jacob. Hi, everybody that's joining in. Appreciate everybody joining right now. We're going to start at the 3 minute mark. So right now we're at like 37 seconds. So we will get bopping in at the 3 minute mark. We decided last week that we were going to do saffron, this week. So saffron it is. Can everybody hear me okay? There we go. All right, so I can see everybody. Hi, Wendy. Just so you know, Wendy sent me a book. I haven't opened it yet, but we're getting there. I'm going to do an opening video. Wendy found me, I believe, through Instagram, and she sent me a book that is still sitting in its mailed envelope in my truck. I have yet to open it. I know what the book is. She did tell me what it was, and it will ultimately end up being an aid for what I do. So we're going to turn it into a learning tool for everybody. So essentially, Wendy bought that for everybody. We're gonna find some. I do believe it's southwestern herbs. So she sent a book to me on southwestern herbs, and we will be able to incorporate that in a lot of our newer stuff that we're going to be doing. Excuse me. So for those of you who follow along on Patreon, I went ahead and I did a post for Mitchell last week. Mitchell wanted me to do sumac, and I wasn't quite prepared to do sumac. So what I did this week, or what I did throughout the weekend, was I went ahead and I threw together a sumac herb of the day. So Mitchell got a post dedicated to him, sumac herb of the day. So that way, because we're going to be covering that the week after next, but at least now he has it. Word herb of the day, and it is there for him to see. Where are we at? Are we at the 3 minute mark yet? Oh, we're at the 3 minute mark. All right, let's get started. So saffron is a very popular herb. It's a spice, actually, and for many years it was used as a medicine. But for the most part, a lot of people use it as a spice. And it is essentially it's a flower. It's part of the crocus flower. Um, and then the particular botanical name for that is the Crocus sativus, or Crocus sativa, or the saffron crocus. It's a spice. It's also considered a medicinal herb. The flower is not used as the spice. So the flower can be used as a tea or used separately, but it is not actually the part that's used as the spice. Those little red hairs that you see there, the red and yellow hairs, is what they pick out to make the actual saffron. And they have to be handpicked. So when you harvest the saffron, you can't just get a big machine and take it like you would with with one of those big combines. The farmers have to go out there and hand pick those, which is why the stuff is so expensive. In some cases, if you get the high quality saffron, it'll go up to $5,000 a pound. So I mean that's almost like pharmaceutical prices for the herb. and it's pretty potent. I mean, it's been around for thousands of years that we've used these types of plants medicinally. It was and currently still is a pharmaceutical drug, and they've made some drugs out of it. The one name brand drug that they have is called Affron. It's just essentially saffron without the S, and you can look that up. Look up Affron and see what it does. And of course, we as people have used saffron for thousands of years as a medicine. So trying to keep it so I don't cough so much tonight. My sinuses aren't so bad because now it's raining. All right. So what are some of the medicinal uses of saffron? Now I've covered some of them throughout the rest of the presentation, but we're going to cover some of these really quick. One of the most common and well-known things that saffron is good for is as an antioxidant. So it's really powerful at pulling out um, free radicals and other types of compounds that cause oxidative stress on the body. It's been shown to help with appetite control, with weight loss. When I went and looked into the Materia Medica book that we have, the one from 1899, which was essentially the pharmacopoeia, or at least in addition to the pharmacopoeia of the United States, and back then it was used as an antispasmodic and as a stimulant. Um, Currently, there's been studies that shows that it's good for depression. It can help balance blood sugar, improve eyesight from macular degeneration. It's been known to help with Alzheimer's disease and other types of cognitive function, and it's used as an aphrodisiac or a libido. Now, we're going to talk about some of these things throughout the course of this particular presentation. We'll cover some of the things that are there, not all of them. There's a few of them there that I didn't necessarily have time to get to. So I didn't have time to get to the blood sugar part or the macular degeneration. But when I go to make this part of Herb of the Day, or this is actually going to be in my top 3 herbs from each state, I'm not going to tell you which state it is, but there's a U.S. state that has become the 22nd leading producer of saffron in the world, and it is one of our states. So it might not sound like a lot, but 22nd out of 190 countries, it's not too bad. It's better than our medical care system. So it ranks higher anyway than we do in medical care worldwide. So I mean, I guess you can't complain too much about it. As you can see, they through the picture, they have essentially just the stigma there, and that's the part that they harvest. So some of it, sometimes they'll get the yellow part of it as well. So we'll go on to the first part, the one that it's best known for, and that's the antioxidant properties. Now, the antioxidant properties that have been well known, they've been well documented, they've studied those through like laboratory testing, the types of things that it does. Saffron has chemical compounds that are powerful antioxidants. These compounds have shown in laboratory tests to remove harmful oxidants and free radicals from the body. They are, and they do. So there's 5 key ones, and there's a whole bunch of other ones that they found as well. But these 5 are the ones that are the most important and the ones that are the most well studied. Now, a lot of other herbs have some of these properties. Other herbs don't necessarily have them, like the saffronol. But we'll go through these real quick, and we'll kind of show you exactly what each one of these does and why they would work so well in a blend. Now, the first one that stood out to me when I was doing the research was camphorol. Camphorol is well known. It's in other types of herbs, and you can do the research on that to see what other herbs that it shows up in. The thing that they know, and they've studied particular camphorol, they've studied it in laboratory studies, is that it's an antioxidant, so it helps remove free radicals from the body and in the brain. So it's not just the body, but it can actually break the blood-brain barrier. It can help pull out oxidants from the brain, which is one of the leading causes of things like dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. It's an accumulation of zinc and other types of toxins that accumulate in the brain and can't get out. So this helps to remove those from the brain. It's anti-inflammatory, so it helps reduce inflammation. And also, one of the key notes on that was it's anti-inflammatory in the brain as well. It's antimicrobial, so it helps to kill viruses and bacteria, and in some cases, even some fungi. It's known to help boost cardiovascular function, and it's neuroprotective. So by that, I mean it helps to protect the brain from further damage. So not only will it help pull the oxidative stress and the oxidative compounds out of your body, and then it'll also help pull or make it work a little bit more efficiently. And it's known to help your body to produce the feel-good chemicals a little bit better. So the norepinephrine, the serotonin, dopamine, those types of compounds that your brain produces, it helps your brain to produce it a little bit better. So in reality, if you could mix it with something, say like with passion flower and maybe St. John's wort, that would go a long ways to making it a much more effective herb, much more effective medicine. As you guys know, for those of you who've been following me for a while, I'm a big fan of using blends anyway. So this isn't any real big surprise to you guys. Other things on this is they have another compound. It's called crocin, crocin. It's also been shown to be neuroprotective. It has anti-cancer properties. They tested it against several different kinds of cancer, and colon cancer, some of the more digestive type cancers. It's mood balancing. It helps with neuroinflammation as well. So it really, most of these compounds can help get into the brain. They can help reduce inflammation, but they all serve a little bit different purpose. There's the third one would be saffronol, which is pretty much exclusive to the crocus plant, and saffron in particular. It's been shown to be anticonvulsant or antispasmodic, so it can help with spasms and convulsions. It's also anti-cancer, and again, one of the other properties of it is it's antioxidant. So it helps to pull these compounds and these free radicals. Free radicals are essentially the free radiating protons and other types of chemical compounds that are just kind of ravaging through your body, causing damage as they go. And these types of herbs and herbal compounds can help to neutralize those free radicals and remove them safely from your body without them causing further damage. There's quercetin, which is considered neuroprotective. It's also anti-cancer. The one thing it was shown to help do, this one helps to balance your blood sugar, or at least it makes your body more susceptible to insulin, or at least it makes the insulin easier to use and utilize. It's also another one of those herbs or another one of those compounds that's good for inflammation. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this next one right, but it's called picrocrocin. It's considered to be anti-cancer. It's shown to be memory enhancing, so it can help enhance your memory, particularly in patients with Alzheimer's and dementia. So people with neurodegenerative disorders, it tends to help them a little bit better than it would somebody who just is forgetful or whatever. Then there's menstrual disorders. So women, these seem to help with female issues and menstrual disorders. Sorry for the excess noise. Amy is being inconsiderate tonight. So then there's asthma. So it's been known to help with reducing the stress and the inflammation in the lungs that cause the asthma. It's been known to help with cardiovascular disease and depression. Now, this is the first one of the compounds that seems to help with the actual depression part, other than the crocin. But the picrocrocin and the crocin are both kind of more along the lines of the neuroprotective part. They seem to help more in the brain, where the other ones are just more antioxidant or inflammation related. But if you use them all in a blend, if you look at that, if you use them in a blend, they're helpful in that whole way that way. So that in that whole way that way, what I mean by that is they're helpful with all of those different conditions, but you have to use them together, right? Because once you start breaking these things down and you're just using just the compounds, that's where your side effects come in. So that's where you kind of have to have the whole thing, because they all kind of balance each other out as well as helping you balance yourself out. How far along? I was just checking messages to make sure we weren't getting behind. So these all are the compounds that they've actually tested. They've found other compounds in there, and a lot of those are found in other herbs, and they've been studied. I didn't throw them in this particular presentation just because we would be here for 6 hours, if I were to do that, because there was at least another 34 that they'd found. These are the ones that were pretty much other than the camphorol, these are all pretty exclusive to at least the crocus family. Some of them are exclusive specifically to the saffron. Anybody have any questions on any of that before we move on to the next part? We only have 2 likes. Oh, you guys are killing me. All right. Okay, so one of the other things that they found is it helps with appetite and weight loss. Studies show saffron aids weight loss, lessens appetite, and even helped with some of the more important aspects of dieting. the results part of it. So you can diet and diet and diet and diet, not necessarily lose any weight, or you don't necessarily lose anything in your weight line, your waistline, so you're wearing the same size clothes, it just isn't necessarily helping. What they found with these, and they've done several studies, in particular, they studied with women, the ones that I found, but there was some that were they didn't do, they multi-gender studies. So what they found was when the people were either taking an extract or drinking the tea, in essence using the saffron, they found that it curbs the appetite by making you feel more full. So where high fructose corn syrup turns off the part of your brain that tells you you're full, this one turns on the part of your brain that tells you you're full sooner. So you're less likely to snack. They found that in these studies, and these are all consistent across the board with these studies. They found that that the people that were in the studies, they snacked less often. It reduced their body mass index, so they actually lost the fat to muscle ratio. It lessened, reduced the waistline, and best of all, the scientists don't know why it worked. None of them. They've studied and studied and studied, and some of them seem to think that it might be due to the fact that it helps with mood. So if it helps boost your mood, you're less likely to snack. That's just a theory, of course. But they found that it can be very effective and it can be very useful for these types of conditions and issues. I think she needs to talk a little bit louder so you guys can hear her too. All right. So it's also known to help with depression and mood balancing. Saffron has, in many clinical studies, shown to be effective in treating mild to moderate depression. Several studies showed that saffron extract worked better than placebo for depression. So there was like at least 6 different studies that I read, and they gave the saffron extract, saffron capsules, saffron tea, depending on the study, of course, and then they gave the other people just the placebo. And they found that the people that were taking the saffron, they had a significant improvement to mood. And in reality, when it comes to these types of conditions, all they can really do is give a questionnaire. So it's all subjective to what the person is each person is individually feeling. So, I mean, so when it comes to those types of studies, even the more in-depth studies, the most of that stuff is anecdotal because it's based off of what the person, individual feels, because there's no real way to measure that, right? Other than what the person tells you. Other studies have shown it to be more effective than some leading pharmaceuticals. Like now, I'm probably going to butcher these names, but if anybody has taken any of these, you probably know, and you'll correct me in the comments. But fluoxetine, um, imiprimine, and citalopram. Those are all depression drugs or anxiety drugs or drugs at least for mental quote unquote health. And there was other studies. There was about 4 more of those particular studies that I showed where they tested those directly against those particular pharmaceuticals, and they found that the just taking the saffron was more effective than them taking their pharmaceuticals. So that's kind of progress, right? That's kind of what you want to see. Those things are awful for you. I know if you read the side effects, they're terrifying. It's like, well, do I want to be depressed or do I want to start bleeding out of my ears? It's hard to tell. What do you want? And is the potential of the side effects worth taking it? Is it what we need? Is it going to be ultimately be helpful, or is it going to not necessarily help as much as it should? So it really just depends on the person, of course, too. And they found that when they did the studies with these, they didn't necessarily just use the stigmas, right? They didn't just use the red part. They used the flowers too, and they found that the flower itself has the potential to boost mood and help depression. And you can take the crocus tea, and you can find that all over the internet. Crocus tea, and if you could try to find the one that has the saffron crocus, they're probably going to charge you a little bit more for that, though I don't know why. With as much money as they're going to charge you for for the stigma of the saffron, they should just charge pennies for the crocus, because crocus is pretty plentiful, but I highly doubt that they'll do it that way. We have any questions on any of this as we've gone? Otherwise, we're going to be in for a very short one tonight. There we go. What would be a good blend with it for weight loss? Well, okay, so Teresa is following along and she asked, this is a good idea. What would be a good blend with saffron to help with weight loss? Okay, so some of the other herbs that I have found that help with weight loss are herbs like Hoodia gordini. There's Bacopa moneri. That's also a good appetite herb. If you could use those in a blend, and you could probably even get away with using it daily. These are herbs. These aren't really super the compounds in it aren't necessarily really highly alkaloid or damaging to the body, but if you're taking it for your mood, you really don't want to take it daily for your mood because eventually your body will get used to it, you taking it. So if you add those two with the saffron, that would be a pretty good blend to help with weight loss. Hoodia is probably one of the better ones that help with that, and but if you add it with the saffron and the bacopa as a blend, I would probably do more bacopa than the other two. I do bacopa than hoodia, and then of course the saffron. Hoodia is not cheap either. This stuff's about $100 a pound, so you're not going to necessarily find good quality hoodia. You have to kill the plant to get it. So, and it's out of Africa, I believe. So it's one of those herbs that's kind of spendy. And when you have to kill the plant to get it, well, unfortunately, that makes it a little bit less hard or less likely you're going to be able to harvest it again after you've already killed it. So um, what they do with those is they'll just make sure they'll take like half the crop and then make sure that part is regrowing, and the next year they'll take the other half of the crop and then just kind of go back and forth doing it that way. That way they can have a renewable resource and not eat all of their stuff. Let's see. I see those meds every day when coding patient charts in the ER. So glad I use ashwagandha, but would love to try saffron. Oh, now you want me to spell them? Well, okay, so Hoodia, Hoodiagordonii. Hoodia gordoni. Gordoni? I know there's two I's in it. And then Bacopa, I can give you the first part of it, Bacopa, Bacopa, Bacopa moneri is, I believe, Monneri, I think. And you can just go back and rewatch it to find out. We are at the 22-minute mark on this, so we're actually moving right along. We might just start keeping these at like a half hour. I'll get more views that way. People don't want to sit and watch these things for an hour. Either I'm very boring or the information's kind of dry. But those are how you spell those two. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, and of course I spelled mood wrong, as you can see. Anybody like to correct me? I forgot how to spell mood. Maybe you can tell me how. Okay, it's also used as an aphrodisiac or a libido booster. I'm going to have to be very careful how I word this because, we are on YouTube and I don't want to get any violations. I haven't had any yet. Let's keep it that way. All right, so here's what they found with saffron is shown to help with reproductive health in both men and women. So this works well for both of you guys, or for both of us. It works well for you ladies, works well for us men, and it does different things in different ways, but it's essentially for the entire sexual reproductive system. So studies have shown saffron can help treat ED in men, which is kind of a common thing. And if used in conjunction with, say, yohimbe bark, so you would use say saffron with yohimbe, and then maybe a little bit of a ginkgo biloba in there. Ginkgo's a vasodilator; it helps to improve blood flow. That would be even better, right? So you'd have a blend that would work specifically for that. You would have to use saffron. I would go yohimbe bark first, yohimbe, saffron, yohimbe, ginkgo biloba, and then the saffron is how I would probably do that. The ginkgo biloba, you really want that protection. Ginkgo also helps to strengthen the lining of the cell walls of the blood vessels and the arteries. So, it'll help dilate them, it'll help improve the blood flow, and it'll make the blood less sticky, so it'll flow a little bit better, a little bit faster, get through the body with less friction. And then you add, of course, the saffron in, and it would help with that as well. Now, it's also shown to help promote interest in women with menopause. Part of the issue with menopause is women don't emotionally have that desire anymore. Because, realistically speaking, if you look at it on a biological level, they don't really have any biological reason to have those feelings anymore because, there's really only in theory, you're only supposed to, the bodies are only supposed to do that while they're reproducing. Of course, humans are a little bit different. And then a lot of animals, some animals can only reproduce like spring and fall. Some animals can only reproduce in the spring. Humans can be pretty prolific and can produce any time of the year, pretty much. So that's not really all that much of a problem. But after menopause, interest does seem to lag, to wag, to wane a bit. So the other thing, here's where I have to be real careful. The other part of it is with females. It increases fluid development in women for better lubrication during the act. So that way it'll actually increase those. Now you also want to make sure to stay hydrated, but this helps to, at least in some laboratory studies, it is shown to help to increase those types of secretions. Um, it helps to increase mental interest in both people or in both genders, and it may help with ED, but doesn't aid the viability of the male reproductive secretion. So even though it'll help with the dysfunction part of it, right, where it doesn't necessarily work, the stuff that you produce from that isn't necessarily going to be as viable. It's not going to make that any better. So your that particular part of production isn't necessarily going to improve, but you will have functionality. So it's kind of a little bit of a trade-off there. You get a little bit of both. Yes, that's a good way to put that, Sarah. It helps with feminine dryness. Yes, it's supposed to help with feminine dryness. So and that's just what the studies have shown. And it, they when I went through that, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. It has a wide variety of uses for that particular aspect of the human nature, and which is pretty helpful, right? That's the kind of stuff that people need later in life. At some point, it is one of the key needs of being a human. It is one of the basic needs of being human is that particular aspect of our life, regardless of how old you are. Over 18, of course, but the older you get, it doesn't matter. It's still part of what the body still needs, and you still need that intimate closeness as well. So, it's part of just being a better human. Do we have any other questions on this particular aspect of it before we move on to any others? We are at the 24-minute mark, so we're not even at a half an hour yet. Oh, we're at 26 minutes. Where would I recommend getting saffron from? Well, I would say pretty much any of the online herb stores. There's a lot of herbal. You can go online, look up bulk herbs. We don't sell it here in our store, so it's not an option for us. And you can buy it in smaller amounts. Now, if you're going to buy it in smaller amounts, you got to be advised. If you're looking at making an extract or something, you're just going to use saffron. It's going to be expensive. You're going to need a minimum of 4 ounces to make a really good extract, depending on how long you want the extract to last. But if you're going to use it in a blend, say, if you're using it for mood, we can talk about, that's what we'll do. After we finish this part of it, we'll talk about different blends that you can use with saffron that could potentially help with those particular conditions. So I'll back up in the slides and I can give a few blends other than the ones we've already discussed, of course. And this will kind of give you a better idea of how you can use saffron because it is very expensive. So, online sources are usually the best, but you just try to get the herb companies, if you want to make sure to get in good stuff. You can also get seeds and grow this yourself. So crocuses grow really well here in the United States. They're everywhere. And you can grow them yourself and harvest the flowers for yourself. Now, see, if you're doing it for yourself, just get the whole thing, right? Get the flower and all. Flower, stigma, all of it. And then, when you're doing it for you, you have your own specific weight. Say I want to use 2 ounces of the dried flower, then you'll know that you have 2 ounces of the dried flower, you have some stigma in there, and a lot of the properties are going to carry over into the flowers too, but most of it is going to be in the stigma. So it's going to be more concentrated there. That's why bee pollen is so powerful and potent, because that's the most concentrated version of each of the flowers, all in the one little bundle. Yeah, see. So Teresa also asked, can it be tinctured? Absolutely. You can tincture anything. I have yet to see an herb that you can't tincture. If you're trying to get the medicinal properties, it's just going to depend on how you do it. So some of these aren't necessarily, some of those compounds that we discussed earlier aren't necessarily soluble in water. So you would have to use an alcohol extract to be able to pull them out properly. They have a different kind of resin in it. So Wendy said I thought it was a certain crocus. It is a certain crocus, and it's the saffron crocus. But crocuses across the board have shown to have a lot of these medicinal properties. They're not as potent as it would be with saffron, right? So you're still going to have, you're still going to need like 10 times as much in order to be able to equate what you're trying to get with the saffron. But all crocuses across the board are going to share that same property. It's just going to be, again, it's just going to be more potent here with this one. Do you have recommendations for searching contraindications for things like cardiac health when using saffron or any herb? So one of the questions is, do you have any recommendation or a recommendation for researching contraindications for things like cardiac health when using saffron or any herb? Well, one of the easiest ways to do it is, counterindications. You do the herb, and say just do the herb. So if it's saffron, and then type counterindications. And trust me, it'll pop up. WebMD is more than happy to throw that out there. But don't stop at WebMD when you're doing your research. So WebMD is going to tell you one thing. You're going to go that and scroll down a little bit further. You want to go into, you want to make sure you get into like NIH, Medical Health Direct, or Medical Direct Science. There's medical science journals. Healthline is okay to a point. I like Healthline sometimes. Healthline will actually, when you go to Healthline and search up an herb, if they've done a write up on it, they'll actually provide you with medical studies for you to go to. However, they pretty much tend to stick with just NIH. I like the other things like Science Direct, Hindawi, or both a couple of other sites that I like to use on top of NIH. NIH is okay, but they're very slanted, you know. So you got to kind of go. Hindawi is is a little bit less. Hang on a second. Almost over me, clearly. Stop. You can say hi if you want. Sorry about that. She was getting very excited. She hates Big Pharma almost as much as I do. We hate Big Pharma equally. So when we both start talking about Big Pharma, trust me, we can really throw it out there. We don't have they don't really have good intentions for us. I don't think. That's just my own personal opinion. I was thinking our Ayurvedic hadn't thought of drug interaction checkers. You can. So some people don't understand that you can actually do that search to see if any of your herbs counterindicate against some of the pharmaceuticals. And the reason why that is, and the reason why some of them will counterindicate, is sometimes you're taking the herb, but if you're taking the pharmaceutical, in some cases that pharmaceutical is made from the same compounds that the herb is from. So you're going to get double doses of it, or potentially you're going to get different types of compounds that don't necessarily do the same thing at the same time, which is where you'll have your issues when it comes to using pharmaceuticals with herbs. Because realistically speaking, the true definition of herb is, or the true definition of drug is from drugan, is the original druggan. It's either Old French or Old Greek, and it means dried medicinal plant. That's the literal definition of it. So later on, they went ahead to include that to not just be plants, but the inorganic compounds too. Some of the things like activated charcoal, diatomaceous earth, bentonite clay, those were also classified, but they're all natural, right? And they're also part of the same thing. So they were able to include that in that particular terminology, and that's pretty easy to prove. If you do a search, sometimes they'll give you the Latin definition of drug, which isn't necessarily the same thing. You have to go back before that, and that'll give you what the true definition was, which is literally dried medicinal plant, dried medicinal herb. Would taking saffron mess up my use of methylphenidate? I saw some studies comparing the two. Well, Sarah, I can't technically answer that question, so I don't know if I don't even know what that particular medication does. So, I would be unable to give you an accurate opinion. I don't necessarily give an opinion, but I wouldn't be able to give you any accurate information on that unless I've actually dug in and done some research. You have my phone number, however, so you have the ability to get a hold of me, and we can talk about this after the live if you want. Just go ahead and send me a text. Then we can go through that, and that would probably be something we want to talk about outside of here, and we can go into a little bit more detail. Give me some time to study it too, because I'm not familiar with that pharmaceutical. All right, so we're going to go on to the next and the last page. It's the last page, and then we're going to talk about a few things real quick, and then we'll probably call it a night. But we're doing pretty good. All right, So saffron is also shown to help with cognitive function. Studies show saffron actually helps protect the entire nervous system, not just the brain. Pretty neat, huh? The cool thing about it is it works for the whole thing. It helps, it's a sedative. Initially, when you look up the medical materia medica and pharmacy and therapeutics book that we have, that was used as a stimulant. And I can understand why it would be used as a stimulant because it boosts your mood so much. If you're in a good mood, it's gonna help you, be more positive, be more uplifted, and potentially give you more energy. What they found is, particular with saffron, and they studied the brain, is that it reduces inflammation in the brain itself. So part of the issue when you get Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's disease, neuralgia, any of these types of conditions, is they lead to higher amounts of inflammation in the brain. Your brain will actually start to swell, which is going to impede blood flow. It's going to have a negative impact on your ability to remember things and your ability to just function properly. Your body does not like that. So they found that saffron helps to clean all this stuff out and helps reduce the inflammation in the brain. It reduces oxidation in the brain as well. So part of the issue with Alzheimer's and neuralgia is that you have a higher buildup of zinc in the brain, and which makes it so the synapses don't necessarily, they can't, when they fire off, the zinc acts as an insulator, right? So you're not able to get those reception or get those impulses from the brain because they're blocked off with oxidation. Well, they found that the saffron, taking the saffron extract, helped to reduce the oxidation in the brain. It boosted cognitive function in Alzheimer's patients. So patients who had Alzheimer's, they did many studies. They've done more than just several, but they've done many studies across the board in using saffron with Alzheimer's patients, and it finds it helps with their memory. It helps them to be able to think better. I mean, it's so that because I understand people with Alzheimer's have like fuzzy thinking, so it helps to clear that up as well. Um, I'm going to assume a lot of that would have to be with the fact that it pulls a lot of the crap out of your brain that don't need to be there. I keep checking message or keep checking comments so that way we can answer comments as we go. Okay, so it boosts memory function, not just people with Alzheimer's. It boosts memory across the board. However, it's more efficient. Excuse me, sound like a pig. It's more efficient for people that have uh, neurological disorders that cause cognitive dysfunction. So it does help with people that have those types of issues, but it will help you a little bit more. The average person who doesn't have these issues, it can help them with memory. It helps to boost mood. So if you're grumpy or you're always depressed or sad, it can help to make those, the norepinephrine, the dopamine, all those feel good chemicals will be produced a little bit better. And it's currently being used in other parts of the world, except here, for epilepsy and other types of convulsive seizures. So, it does help with that as well because of the different compounds that are in it. And so, I mean, for everything that you have with saffron, it's kind of one of those very many different types of uses for different kinds of people in different conditions. And, in reality, if it wasn't so expensive, I mean, it's almost pharmaceutical expensive at $5,000 a pound. I've seen you can get cheaper saffron for like $500 a pound. Excuse me, that is my allergies. Now you could probably go to maybe Alibaba or AliExpress, and I do know that they sell like crocus flowers and other types of teas like that, or not crocus but lotus flowers. So you could probably find some fairly inexpensive saffron, or maybe even some crocus flowers with the with the stigma on them. And I mean, it would take you a while to pull them all off yourself, but at the very least, you would have it. And those are not some bad places to go. I mean, I've used Ali Light. We've used it to get all sorts of different things. There's all sorts of different kinds of things that you can get, teas and herb supplies. Different things you can make, different things you can do with herbs. So there's smaller capsule machines, things like that. So those are good places to go. They take a little while to get here. It's not the 2-day delivery service. The instant gratification that we need, but it gets here maybe 2 weeks to a month. But you get it. You're gonna have it. And it's going to be exact kind of what you're looking for the most part. We haven't had any bad experiences with any of the Ali Light stuff we bought, from herbs to herb supplies. So yeah, that's actually pretty not bad. AliExpress, Alibaba anyway. So we can go on to some things now. For those of you who've been following along, I don't know how many of you are actually on my Patreon, but if for those of you who are watching later, I have a Patreon account, the Herb Guy. I'll try to remember to put that down in the comments section. And what I've done recently, or just done new, it's just new today. I have a phone number through Patreon that is specifically for people who pay. So my subscription services. I have another subscription service over on Instagram. It's 99 cents a month. And so that number will be posted over there as well. So this is for people who follow along. If you're a patron, you have access to me. You can send me a text, you can call if you have a question. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd rather you didn't blow up my phone every single day for $1 a month. But if you have, hey, I have a quick question about this or that, I am more than happy to help you with that. You have to understand that I have a full-time job on top of this. So, in the mornings when I'm trying to do my videos and stuff, I'll have a little bit of time to get back to you. If I don't get back to you right away, it's not because I'm ignoring you, it's because I'm extremely busy. And if I can get to a point where I'm making more money doing this than I am working in my factory job, well, then, obviously I'll be able to put out a lot more stuff. But I'm currently making $130 a month on Patreon. So that is not enough for me to be able to quit my job and do this full time. I truly appreciate everybody over on Patreon who follows along and who subscribes. I have a lot of free stuff over on the Patreon page. So there's at least 35, 40, I don't know, there's several. There's free recipes, free articles, all the PowerPoint presentations that I've done. So there'll be all my lives that I do here on YouTube. All of those are available for free over on Patreon. So you can get the actual slideshow. They're saved as PowerPoint presentations. So you can actually open it up and all that information is still there. It's free to use. I don't care what you do with it. I mean, as long as you're not trying to make money off of it, you're welcome to use it to try to keep up. That's what this whole point is so we can make people healthier. And that's my goal anyway. So if you go over there and it's posted, it's pinned to the top. So anybody who signs up for my Patreon, you have access to that particular phone number, and that number is specifically for paid subscribers. And anybody, and then for those of you who actually have my home phone number or my actual phone number, you guys are welcome. Just keep that. Wendy says, so is there an actual product to use rather than mixing it yourself? Being fairly new to this, I don't feel confident enough to be mixing concoctions. Yes, you can find saffron extract all over online. Amazon, eBay, Etsy. And you can, it's everywhere. And some of it will be pretty cheap. Some of it's going to be disgustingly expensive. But you can find them in different spots online. And that's all you have to do is just find saffron extract for sale. And it'll take you right to shopping. And then you'll know that there are actual businesses. Now, when you're looking for if it's just a saffron extract, you want to make sure that there's only saffron extract in the ingredients. So anytime you buy any of this stuff, if you're buying it from a smaller company and they don't have the ingredients on there, don't buy it. Or, ask them, what are the ingredients? You need to know the specific ingredients. Not because you're trying to make it yourself, but because you need to know the specific ingredients. Because if they're throwing other things in there other than just saffron, well, then you're kind of getting screwed. Because, that's the whole point of a saffron extract is to get the saffron. I will be teaching, I do teach people how to do herbal blends and stuff. And it really isn't as complicated as people think it is. And that's part of this whole process is herbs made easy. It's one of my slogans. I try to make herbs easy because, I take the mystery out of it and make this stuff a little bit easier for everybody to understand. That's kind of the whole point. That's why I get a lot of followers sometimes because I can do this stuff without having to use all the big words, and then I can explain it in a succinct way that everybody understands. And anybody has any questions, I tend to answer those. Though I have short patience for silly questions. So for those of you who follow along and who ask those ones, you understand that I will answer. I will answer those back. I will. Just not always nicely. Hey, Mitchell, Okay, so Mitchell Free just got here. Mitchell, if you go over to Patreon, I know you're a patron over there. Go over to Patreon. I did a post just for you because last week we were talking about sumac, and I didn't. Everybody outvoted you, so instead I decided I kind of did one better, and I did a post herb of the day sumac specifically for you. It's all yours. So that's how that's pretty much everything I have right now on saffron. There's a lot of stuff that saffron can do, and a lot of studies out there. I could probably spend 3 days talking about this plant, but By then, everybody would tap out at about 30-second mark. So it'd be 3 days of a lot of excess video recording that didn't need to be done. But that's where we're at with it. Anybody have any actual questions on this plant before we call it a night? We were at the 45-minute mark, so we did really well and stayed underneath that hour. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah says, I definitely make it easy to understand, which is my goal, for sure. We have time for another couple of questions, and then we will call it an evening. Anybody? Stay tuned this week. If you follow me on Instagram, I will be doing an opening of that particular of the book that Wendy sent. And because she met me through Instagram, we talked through Instagram. That is going to be an Instagram exclusive video. I'm only going to do that over on Instagram. So it'll be the only place you'll be able to find that. And we're going to do the opening. We're going to figure out what book it is. And then we're going to figure out different ways that we can use it medicinally for teaching people. Oh, go over blends. Good call, Teresa. Yes, we have to do it very quickly, though, because now I'm running out of time. All right, so let's go over some blends real quick. Let's go with, okay, so we already talked about weight loss, so antioxidant. So if you're going to use it as an antioxidant, now we already know that antioxidants help pull free radicals and other toxins out of the body. So if you're going to use it as an antioxidant or even a detox herb, because it would make a pretty good detox herb. Let's say if you're going to do it that way, I would probably use dandelion root, and then I would use chaparral, CHAPARRAL would be another one that I would use for that. And then I would probably throw in, I'm looking what I want to throw in next, chicory root. So I would do dandelion, chaparral, chicory, and saffron for antioxidant / detox. That would be good to help pull the crap out of your body at the most gentle way possible, so you're not overdose or you're not stressing your body out trying to get that stuff out. So there's for antioxidant. That's one blend. We talked about appetite and weight loss. You already have that blend. If you missed it, you have to go back to like the 10-minute mark or something. I don't know. Depression and mood balancing. Well, this one's pretty easy. Now, if you're already on psych meds, this is not the blend for you, right? Because actually, if you're on psych meds at all, none of these herbs are really very good for you. You have to, except for passion flower, you have to be very careful because they will counterindicate. And the reason why is both of these things, pharmaceutical drugs and herbs, they make your brain work better but in different ways, and they'll make it work so better that it'll break and tends to cause issues. That's why you have the exact opposite of what you're trying to accomplish if you try to mix herbs with your psych meds. So a good blend for this, I would say I would go for mood balancing. I would throw some St. John's wort in there, passion flower for sure, ashwagandha, because ashwagandha is a mood balancer. It's a good adaptogen, so it would help prepare the body for the stuff you're taking, make it more bioavailable. And then, of course, saffron. So that would be St. John's wort, passion flower. Do it the other way. More passion flower than St. John's wort. So do, say, 1.5 parts passion flower, 1 part St. John's wort, 1 part ashwagandha, and then, 1/4 to 1/2 a part saffron. It would be a decent blend there. For a libido booster, well, that's going to vary between men and women. So if you're female and you're having that issue, I would probably stick with, I would do like, I'm not recommending any of these, by the way. I'm just saying if it were me. That's why I say I would do for myself. I would do Damiana with ginkgo and saffron. Damiana leaf, Damiana. Maybe some red clover, but tiny amounts. You don't want too much estrogen, right? So just a bit of red clover. I'd actually probably use less red clover than I did saffron. So we do Damiana, saffron, red clover in that order. So maybe 2 parts Damiana, 1 part saffron, 1/2 a part red clover. So you don't overdo it on the estrogen. You don't want too much. That can really mess things up. And then as cognitive function, help improve brain function. Well, that was very easy for me. If I were blending this with anything else, I would use ginkgo biloba would be my first and foremost because it's such a good brain herb. It's a vasodilator. It gets up in the head, and it's my favorite tree. That's not the reason, but it's my favorite tree. Just a little bit of an aside. Gotu Cola, Gotukola. Gotu Cola also helps break the blood-brain barrier. It's a cognitive verb. And then Saffron. So those three would be pretty good. You could probably even throw in. You could probably even throw in either some pomegranate or some nutritional yeast to get the extra B vitamins, which is good for your brain. Um, one or the other of those. So ginkgo, Gotu, 2 parts ginkgo, 2 parts Gotu, 1 part. Oh, let's just pomegranate powder, and then a half a part or even a full part saffron. That'd be a pretty good blend for that too. So those are my blends that went pretty quickly, and we still got to stay within that hour mark. What do you guys think of those? Are those blends pretty nice? Chronic migraines kill gray matter over time. Could saffron help with that? Well, about migraines. Okay, so the problem with migraines is that it's not necessarily that's due to more restricted blood flow than anything else. So a lot of the times, if you're gonna be focusing on migraines, I would probably not use saffron. If it were a migraine thing, even the FDA says now that here, it's bad when even the FDA admits that it works. But I would probably for migraines, I would do a mix of feverfew with skullcap. Skullcap is spelled Cullcap. Some people spell it with a K, but it's Cullcap, skullcap herb. Both of those are vasodilators. Both of those are clinically shown. Even the FDA admits, yep, they work really well for migraines. And because that's part of the issue. But if I'm also gonna do that, I'm gonna throw some ginkgo in there, right? So I'm gonna do feverfew skullcap with ginkgo. I mean, you could throw the saffron in there if it makes you feel any better, but I don't know that it's necessarily. I didn't see anything. I mean, it reduces inflammation, but inflammation isn't necessarily the issue with migraine. The issue with migraines is restricted blood flow, even down to the small capillaries. So, and your blood's trying to push through it. So it's pressure, but not due to inflammation. It's pressure due to constriction of blood flow. So, you increase the vasodilation properties. So you get your ginkgo, and I would do more ginkgo with that than I would anything else because ginkgo breaks the blood-brain barrier a lot better than a lot of the other herbs. So do ginkgo, feverfew, skullcap for migraines, and then you can just do a search, just do a basic search. Um, Feverfew for migraines, and your search page will blow up with how well it works for migraines. You can even grow it. It's very prolific. It grows everywhere. You get some feverfew, and it gets away from you. It'll take over a flower bed. And they did a study. There was one lady. She was 77 years old who suffered from migraines for 20 years. And in the study, she ate 3 leaves a day, 3 leaves of feverfew, and they're tiny. And you can see the difference in my hand. They're pretty small. Um, they they were able just 3 a day kept her migraines away from after that. That's what they discovered and what they found. So, which is pretty cool. That's just off of one plant, and that wasn't a blend at all. But you'd use the three as a blend, and I would be willing to bet that it would work really well. Um, what about parts for the first one? When's a good time? We're getting there, Jacob. Right now is not a good time. Give me a few weeks to get some other things squared away, and then we will talk about that. The antioxidant. Okay. What are the parts for the first one? What are the parts for the first one? What? The antioxidant? Oh, you weren't listening? Go back and watch again. Let's go back and watch it again. That'd be the easiest way. I don't remember what they all are. Maybe somebody can throw it in the comments. But we're running out of time, so again, we don't make it very long because I actually need people to watch these videos. Otherwise, they're just an extremely long waste of my time to get people to watch it. Because we're trying to spread the message. Might just end up doing this back on TikTok. We'll see. I don't get too many views on this, but I get a lot more views over on TikTok. And until I get more of a presence here on YouTube, we just might end up doing that. We'll see what happens. We'll see how this video does this week, and if it does any good, we'll stay here. But if it doesn't, we'll pop back over on TikTok, and you guys can see me over there on live, but not on my normal channel. I have to do it my smaller channel. So, because TikTok being TikTok. Don't forget to hit the like button. Yes, don't forget to hit the like button. Oh, well, the amounts would be just 1 to 1. I mean, really, it's just this isn't rocket science. Typically speaking, especially for a blend like that, you're just going to want the equal properties of all of them. So I just do 1 to 1 on all of it, and I don't necessarily have to break each one of those down either. When it comes to your guys' recipes like that, think it through and kind of do a little bit of research. That's kind of what I'm trying to teach you guys is how to think this through and do this for yourself. So you don't need to have somebody constantly telling you, and trying to walk you through every single step of this. This is not rock. This isn't very complicated. So we will try to make it so that you don't necessarily have to worry about being able to make these blends for yourself because it really frustrates me that we have been so untaught that we can't do this ourselves, that we have to have somebody in a white lab coat tell us how to do it. That it's disturbing. We shouldn't have to feel that way. Being healthy should be not only easy but inexpensive. So that's just my own opinion, though. On the antioxidant, I do 1 to 1. That would just be me. But I probably, for myself, I probably wouldn't use saffron. I have other herbs for detox for that. But in the spirit of this particular video, that would be the one you would add. Right, try and try again. You got to see what works for you because I mean everybody's different, and your body's going to react different to every one of these herbs. So it's very difficult for me to give you a concrete, this is the way it's going to work because your body may not like those particular herbs in that particular blend. So it really will be individual. But we will go over, Jacob, if I think you're a patron, send me a text and we'll talk about the consultation. We'll try to see if I can get you in this week. I'm really super busy this week. I got some other things going on, but I'm trying. Just be patient with me, you guys. So that's what I have for the night. And I will try to see, what are we doing next week? Anybody remember? Anybody remember what we're doing next week? I don't remember. I know that we did saffron this week, and then we did a vote, but I forgot what it was. No, sumac's next week, Teresa, or the week after next, because there was 2 things we were going to talk about, and then sumac was like pushed back even further. Oh, well then maybe it will be sumac if we don't have one pick, and Mitchell has been very patient with it. Sumac it is. We're going to do sumac next week. We're going to pull it up. And let people know that there are some medicinal properties of sumac. It's not only that, it's edible, nutritious, and we're not talking about poison sumac. So, just like ivy and poison ivy, oak and poison oak, right? You don't want to eat the poison part of it. That's the whole point of that poison word. But there is sumac plant, and it's pretty good stuff. So if you hadn't watched it yet, Mitchell, go ahead and pop over there. It's for you. We got it all set up for you. Other than that, though, I think we have everything. Everybody be prepared for sumac next week. We will cover that. And then I want everybody to come next week with a topic so we can figure out what we're going to do the week after that. But I want everybody to have a great week. Stay out of trouble. Stay dry if you can. It's raining here. So, and enjoy your week. See you next week.